Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Jerry's Restaurant, South Mayo Trail, Pikeville, for another edition of the Kelly Wells Show. It's presented by Appalachian Wireless, and it's where we talk all things U-Pike basketball. The University of Pikeville men's program back in the top 25 at number 20 this week after 2 wins last week. And we'll talk with Coach Kelly Wells coming up in just a little bit about the men's program. We'll get things started tonight a little differently, and we'll talk about the U-Pike women's program. Joined now by assistant coach Taryn Duncan. And Taryn, it's been a tough year for the women's program, starting 4 freshmen currently. And before we go any further, what's the mood around the team?
You know, we're just trying to stay positive. They are so young. It's hard, I mean, it's easy to get down on yourselves, especially when you're used to playing in high school and everything's going your way all the time. So we're trying to keep them positive. We're trying new things every week. You know, just trying to make everything click and try to find a combination that will work out on the court. And
last week, a couple of losses, but against very, very good teams,
yes.
and they were competitive games. You have to try to find hope within that, I think.
Right, yeah, in the first game, University of the Cumberlands, I think they're number 6 in the country right now. We struggled to score. We honestly couldn't find anybody to put the ball in the hole. Against Lindsey Wilson was a little different story. I think right now they're 25 in the nation, so we came out, we kept our attitude up, we kept positive. Friday in practice, we came out Friday and gave Lindsey Wilson all they wanted for 40 minutes. And, you know, we came up short, but we had a lot of good things going on in that game.
Freshmen in the starting lineup, it's not a good thing in the Mid-South Conference because so many of the teams that you are facing, Cumberland, 6th in the country, they're a very experienced team.
Right.
How do you keep these freshmen focused on the ultimate goal? And right now it has to be down the road, not necessarily this year, looking forward to the tournament. And how much have these freshmen grown up since they've been thrown into the starting lineups?
Oh, they've grown up tremendously. You know, you just have to keep reminding them. Last year, Cumberland's, who is now number 6 in the country, all those girls that are sophomores and juniors were once in their shoe. Last year, Cumberland's, I think, went 10 and 16.
Right.
So, you know, you have to tell them that, you know, everyone's been there. So we just, like I said, you have to keep them positive, try to keep them on the right track, keep them here, and, you know, in 2 and 3 years, they're going to be really, really good.
Got to build a program, and of course, situations around the program with injuries and such, you get forced into situations like that. But looking at the talent of the freshmen that are starting, of the younger players, and you've got some experienced players too. Jaleesa Jones last week in the Bears spotlight, an experienced player. But with those young players, with the returning players, looking ahead just a little to next year, do you like the talent that's coming back?
Oh yeah, I mean we have great talent coming back. We've got, like you said, 4 freshmen in the lineup. So you know, a lot of teams have played 1 and 2 freshmen, and we're playing 5 and 6. So next year, you know, we're going to have 5 and 6 sophomores that have that much experience, with probably 1 and 2 freshmen, and hopefully some junior college players that come in with 2 years of experience. So,
of course, sophomores that have grown up because they've gotten significant minutes this year. And in those battles in the Mid-South Conference next year, they'll go in much tougher players and obviously more experienced because of that as well. We've got a player in the Bear spotlight tonight, Sydney Wainscott, we want to talk about. And before we bring her on in our next segment, let's hear the coach's perspective. Tell us about Sydney Wainscott.
She's a very heady point guard. She's very, very smart. She'll tell you she's not the quickest or the fastest, but she always finds a way to get things done. She tends to guard the other team's best player, point guard, 2 guard. You know, she just guts it out. She plays for 40 minutes. She plays as hard as she can. She's a leader. You know, she gets people in their spots, and she does everything that we ask her to do.
That description, a lot of coaches say, that's the kind of player I want 15 of.
Right.
Just that goes out and gets it done, and maybe not the most talented or athletic player on the floor, but gives it everything they've got. They play with a lot of head, and they're very coachable.
Right. She does everything we ask her to do.
We're looking forward to talking with her, and we're looking forward to the U-Pike women picking up a win this week at Georgetown on Thursday. That's next up. Give us a little scout on Georgetown.
Georgetown, going into Georgetown, anytime you are on the road, but especially at Georgetown, that's a tough place to play, a tough place to win. They play very well at home. They get up and down. I mean, it's going to be a track meet. They like to push the ball. They play 4 guards, 1 big. They get a lot of threes. You know, they play a lot of kids. So, you know, we're just going to have to be able to run. And at our place, when we played them, we didn't box out very well. So I feel like the key to getting a win is going to be to keep them off the offensive glass.
We always like beating Georgetown. Let's get one Thursday. Let's get one Thursday. Taryn Duncan, assistant coach with the University of Pikeville women's basketball program. When we come back, we'll step into the Bears spotlight with UPike women's player Sydney Wainscott. It's the Kelly Wells Show. We're talking all things UPike basketball and presented by Appalachian Wireless. Welcome back into Jerry's Restaurant, South Mayo Trail, Pikeville. Every Tuesday evening, this is the scene for the Kelly Wells Show, where we talk all things University of Pikeville basketball. We'll talk with the NAI National Coach of the Year, Kelly Wells, and we'll talk about the men's program. They land at number 20 in this week's rankings nationally, coming off a couple of wins and heading up toward a couple of tough road matchups. We'll talk about the men's program. And right now, in the Bears spotlight, one of the University of Pikeville women. It's a freshman point guard, Sydney Wainscott, joining us now on the Kelly Wells Show. And Sydney, welcome in.
Thank you.
Before we talk basketball, we always talk about academics because student comes first. So do academics, or they should. Let's talk about your academics. What's your major? What do you plan to do when you finish your college degree?
Well, my plans right now are to major in psychology. I want to get my PhD and work in a school somewhere, not real sure yet. And if that doesn't work out, I'm going to law school. So that's my plans.
Sounds like a plan. I know some folks that could use someone with a psychology degree today. And we could put you to work, but that's down the road. Let's talk basketball now and step back in time. And had a chance to talk with some of your teammates and talk about when they started playing the game. And some started very late compared to now, because now we see some young ladies, they'll start playing in second, third grade. When did you start playing organized basketball?
I would say second grade is when I started. My first AAU team maybe around fourth grade. Played all through elementary school, middle school, and high school.
So you're one of the typical gym rats that starts very young, spends a lot of time in the gym. Talk about your high school career. Where did you play?
I played at Simon Kenton High School, which is in Independence, Kentucky, all 4 years. Well, actually, I played 5 years. I played 8th grade, too, in high school.
And you land at Pikeville. Let's talk about recruiting Sydney Wainscott. How did you arrive in Pikeville, Kentucky?
I was actually at a all-star tryout, and Coach Duncan came up and talked to me. And then I had went to another all-star game, and that's when I met Coach Watson. And I talked to him for a while. It was at the very end of it was after basketball season, at the end of my high school career. And this is where I ended up. What
did you know about Pikeville before you came here, maybe on your first visit?
My first visit, I only got to meet maybe 2 of the players. I haven't really seen anyone play, so I just kind of had to base it off of the coaching, talking to them, and them telling me about the program, kind of just seeing the campus, and that's what I based it off of.
What did you know about Pikeville, Pike County, the community? Coming from northern Kentucky, it's a little different here in the mountains.
When I came here, it was kind of a surprise. Everything was so much smaller. There's no malls around here or anything, so it was a little different, but it's just a lot smaller than where I'm from.
But you've been welcomed with open arms, I'm sure.
I have, yes.
One of the 4 freshmen, you're getting a lot of playing time for this University of Pikeville women's team. You've been on hard times. The last win coming, I guess, back in early December, 4-18 now. 4 freshmen in the starting lineup, and I think a lot of folks, they hear that and then they realize it's tough for the UPike women right now. But what I've noticed lately is you've been very competitive in a lot of games against some very good teams. How close is this team to turning the corner?
There's been so many games where we've been so close. We have really good chemistry off the court. On the court, I mean, we're still working on putting it together. We're young. We have a lot of talent. We have a lot of good players. It all starts in the locker room and in practice. We'll have a good practice, and then we can put parts of a game together. Right. We just never can finish, but we're right there.
Georgetown Thursday?
Georgetown Thursday. I think we're all getting ready. Georgetown's a big game always, especially on the road, like Coach Duncan had said. It's going to be big. It's a big game. It's a good team, so hopefully we can come out with the win.
Could be a corner turner. Let's get a win there.
Yes.
We all love beating Georgetown. Let's talk about something that Coach Duncan can't talk about, or Coach Watson can't talk about, and that's the mood in the locker room. What's the mood away from the locker room among the players with your team? Because You talk about you haven't won in a while, start to get down, and the players talk away from the coaches. Nobody else is listening. It's just me and you. Okay? Let's talk about the mood among the team. What's the mood of this young team?
We're all positive. We are all really close friends outside of basketball. We try to keep each other up. I mean, of course, every team's going to have their, fights or whatever, but we keep it together pretty good. We try to keep each other focused. So for the games, we always try to get each other pumped up, and we just try to stick together because the easiest thing to do right now is fall apart. So we're trying to keep together.
Is this a team that can make a run in the tournament?
Definitely. We have the talent. We definitely have
Everything's got to come together.
Yes.
Let's get everything together Thursday night at Georgetown.
Let's do it.
6 o'clock tip-off. We'll be there. Sydney Wainscott, freshman point guard with the University of Pikeville Women, our guest in the Bears Spotlight. When we continue, we'll talk with Coach Kelly Wells. Sydney, thanks for being our guest tonight.
Thanks for having me.
It's the Kelly Wells Show, presented by Appalachian Wireless. When we return, we'll talk with the NAIA National Coach of the Year, Kelly Wells, the Kelly Wells Show from Jerry's Restaurant in Pikeville. Welcome in to the Kelly Wells Show from Jerry's Restaurant, South Mayo Trail, Pikeville, where we talk all things U-Pike basketball. And thanks so much to our guests. When we talk about the U-Pike women, Taryn Duncan tonight, and freshman point guard Sydney Wainscott, joined now by the NAIA National Coach of the Year, Kelly Wells, as we talk about the men's program. And Coach, welcome in. It's been a good week.
It really has been a perfect storm in a lot of ways, and really with all the events and things that went on, to grab 2 great wins at home, great crowds, enthusiasm was all over campus and around town. Just a great culmination of a great week of basketball.
Of course, backing up even before last week's show, a win on the road at UVA Wise, and then Cumberland's comes to town. Appalachian Wireless Night, truck giveaway. Thousands of people there, a lot of giveaways, a lot of distractions, and I know a lot of obligations for you. How does that affect your game prep?
Well, it doesn't in a lot of ways. The old adage, the hay's in the loft by the time you get to the game, and hopefully we've got our guys prepared completely by the time we arrive to the game. There are some small adjustments, maybe a lineup change from the other team, and you have to look at those things. But as far as game prep, by the time you've got to 20 games, you should have a routine down, and we most certainly do. So it really doesn't affect us in a negative way. But for our kids to see the energy and the excitement of the crowd and seeing 3,000 fans roll in to watch them play basketball, and I know there were a lot of other things going on,
sure.
But it just was a great experience. And now our key is to try to get 3,000 fans in there night in, night out, and that's a challenge. But we've got a good product to sell, and hopefully we've earned some more fans from those events.
I think that's what it does. Is a lot of folks may be seeing the Bears for the first time or this team for the first time, and they fall in love with the team. If you see how this team performs and the way they play, they get after it, they play hard, and they're very talented. And I think a lot of folks had a chance to see that Thursday night. The big crowd, a lot of students in the house against Cumberland's. Your team jumps out to an 11-0 lead and 17-2. Does that have any effect on the fast start?
It has an immediate effect on the fast start. The 2 games previously, West Virginia Tech and UVA Wise, were both road games. We got off to terrible starts in both of those and had to play uphill all night, which we ended up winning the Wise game but lost the Tech game. And our whole game plan was to have a ferocious start, and 17-2 would certainly qualify for that. And I credit a lot of that to our fans. Our fan base was really into it. Our guys were energetic from the warm-ups. They felt like they had something more than just their team to play for, and they represented well, very well.
Absolutely did. And we'll talk about Andrew Young and his play a little bit later as we talk about some weekly awards from the Mid-South Conference. But again, he was big. Chris McHenry seems to be back 100% as well. Is he at 100% yet?
He is. I think he's pretty well where he needs to be, and he still has to wear a brace on his ankle, which does cause a little bit of a distraction, but he's as close to 100% as he's going to be the rest of the year. And really, you go down the lineup this time of year and starting the month of February, there's not any of those guys that feel 100%. That's just not reality. And we fought through a lot of things and beatings and bangs and bruises, and all our guys are in pretty good health for this time of year.
Andrew Young will talk about the week he's had, but another player that maybe could be honorable mention on the Mid-South Conference Player of the Week awards certainly is with the UPike program, and that's Cordero Ellis. Really has stepped up big. You can see the confidence on his face when he steps on the floor now, and something that wasn't there a month ago. What do you attribute that to?
Some of it's comfort. I think he's started to settle back in, and you know, he's a backward, bashful type young man. We've had him on the show. He's not a super talker. He's not a go out in the middle of town and just make a scene. He's just a behind-the-scenes kind of guy, and we've adapted our style of play a little bit to kind of fit him. He's the top of our zone now, and he's taken some pride in being there, and it's also afforded him some scoring opportunities in transition. He's not a go-to post player where we throw it into him and say, go get us 15, 18 points a game, but his niche is what he does well, and that's hustle plays, that's transition dunks, making great passes, being a great team guy, being in the spots he's supposed to be in 100% of the time, and I think our teammates trust him. I know our coaches trust him, and that's a big part of why he's playing well, and it's really trickled down to everybody on our team. When you have another player play well, you add a Chris McHenry who's starting to play better, you've got Andrew Young who's played great, Trevor who's played most of the year all well, and then you add another fourth part in Cordero that really spreads them out where people can't just isolate on a Trevor, on a Chris McHenry, and it gives us good balance. And we've had 17 or above assists the last 3 games, and the reason is because we've got some other guys we can throw it to.
Try to describe Cordero Ellis in just a couple of words, and solid and consistent come to mind.
I like that. I would also throw in there heady, because he's there's basketball plays that you have to make within a game, and we can put them in the right spots offensively and defensively, but you have to play and make adjustments within the play, and I thought he did. And, you know, we'll get to the Lindsey Wilson game later, but we made some really nice basketball plays in that game. Even though they defended us well and took some things away, we made some good basketball plays.
Yeah, there been some highlight videos that I've already seen from some of those, and great play. Josh Whitaker, we've talked about a little bit. He's played much more aggressively offensively. Doesn't really look to score a lot in the last week, 10 days. He has. Defenses tend to back off him, and he's a guy that I know can score. He has the ability to score. He's a shooter and can fill it up, but hasn't looked to score. Is that something that's come from the bench, or has the game just come to him?
Well, I think you can tell even on his face. I mean, I think you can tell in his body language that he is so much more confident in his shoes. He's so much more confident in what we're trying to do. And again, he's a sophomore, but this is his first year of really playing a considerable amount of minutes. And the luxury we had when Chris McHenry got hurt was that he had to play those minutes. And it's been good for him. He's really, you know, just blossomed into a fine player for us. And we don't call on him to score 1,000 points a season. I mean, he's the kind of guy that has to help everybody else get in the flow of the game, but he can't be the guy that nobody guards. And he realized early on that when people were starting to slough off of him, he's got to make them pay. He's got to shoot the jump shots when he's open. He doesn't have to force any jump shots. He can get to the rim with anybody. He's so fast. And he's got to create those kind of scoring opportunities for us. And when you do that, they have to honor him, and that's just another piece of the puzzle that makes us hard to guard, is because Josh now has developed an offensive game to go with his good defense, his hustle plays, and his passing.
And he took a little bit of a shot, I guess, in the Lindsey game. Got banged in the shoulder. Let's talk about his health. Anything that's going to carry over to this week?
No, he hadn't missed a beat. Study hall Sunday night, he was complaining about his shoulder. He couldn't raise full range of motion, and our training staff's tremendous. He went in for treatment Sunday and went in for treatments Monday. And he didn't miss a minute of practice, and today he was back to normal form, full rotation, and he's a tough nut. If there's one that I know will be able to get through it, that's Josh, and he'll be right there ready to play. On
Saturday, your team ranked number 23 in the country and hosting number 8 Lindsey Wilson. They were coming off a loss to UVA Wise, a team that will get after you anyway, very well coached. You knew you had a challenge Saturday, and your team, they met that challenge, I felt.
Well, I tell you, from a fan's perspective, I don't know if you could find a better basketball game. I mean, it had to be fun to watch. As a coach, you chew your fingernails off the whole time. And as I told Paul after the game, that no one really deserved to lose that game. I thought we just had it last and made the last final good play. But it was a tremendous game. I thought they had a great game plan against our zone. They exposed some things with our zone that we knew were there, but there was only certain teams that could expose it. And with the amount of shooters that they had on their team, they've got 4 spot-up shooters. One was 7 for 11 from the three-point line.
Yeah.
They had some parts that could expose our defense, but we maintained it, and we had stretches where it was tremendous. And even late in the game, Josh Whitaker got out and made the right coverage and blocked one of the shots down the stretch on a perimeter shooter that we needed. And really, our defense was the key in that game, even though we did give up some things. And I'm sure there were people, including my wife, that sat up there and said, "Why is he staying with that zone? Why is he staying with that zone?" It's one of those things you just never get comfortable with. They may make a few shots in it,
Sure.
but you never get comfortable. And I like it. I think it's something that's really helped us turn the corner.
And you don't run into a player like Chase Cox very often that's going to hit 7 of 11. And a lot of times he was pushed well beyond the NBA line while he was hitting those threes.
Yeah, no question. Yeah, and you got Kimberlin, who is a tremendous shooter. You got Chase Cox, who's a tremendous shooter. Darren Ballou, who's a tremendous shooter. And then they put their post player. So they've got 4 perimeter options at any time that can make a three. It really stretches your defense out. But we still ended up winning the rebound margin by 6 for that game, and that's a compliment to our guys' effort. Now, they didn't miss a ton of shots, and our defensive field goal percentage wasn't where we liked it to be. But at the end of the day, the final score was what we wanted it to be.
Absolutely. And, of course, the final score, 71-70, UPike wins, and it came off Andrew Young's layup in the paint with about 8 seconds to go. A game that was tied 8 times. Nobody held a lead of more than 8 in the game. Tremendous game to broadcast and to watch. And I've seen some highlight videos, and it was the type of plays that got lost as we were watching the game then. You look back on, and tremendous plays, but they came so quickly in the game, and then the pace was so frantic, we didn't get a chance to appreciate them now, and we've looked at them several times. Talk about some of those plays.
Well, I tell you, the one that's really glaring to me is the final play. We had a couple opportunities. Our first out of bounds that we ran didn't come to where we wanted it to be, and we didn't get any of our options out of it. Got it in bounds. We burnt some clock, and then we had to call another timeout. And I think it was 11.4 seconds to go, and we drew up another play. And really the initial parts that we were looking for were not available. And
right.
We went into the secondary rollback where we just isolated the post. And Josh Whitaker, we made him take it out of bounds, made a tremendous decision to throw the ball into Andrew on the block. And, we didn't give him enough credit on how tough a shot it was. He actually caught it over one of their 6'6" post players who's very athletic, showed him the basketball in a shot fake, and elevated extremely high up over top of it and made a great move that put us in a position to be up 1 point. But the thing that was most impressive about that whole sequence was the other end of the floor. Is Cordero Ellis was smart enough to figure out that Justin Archie, who dribbles the ball left-handed, forced him to dribble it right-handed. And it was a totally different shot for him going right than it is for him going left. And he actually missed the shot going right because of the good defense by Cordero. So we made 2 really good plays to close the game. And then Trevor Setti, as he reassured me, he had that rebound the whole way on the tip, but he certainly did not have that rebound the whole way. He just ended up getting it.
Trevor's going to be a great salesman someday.
He certainly's got a great imagination. We'll give him that.
Coach Kelly Wells, we talked UPike basketball. The Bears coming off 2 Mid-South Conference wins over Cumberland's and then and now number 8 ranked Lindsey Wilson College, and tremendous game to watch. Coming out of that game, Andrew Young named the Mid-South Conference Player of the Week, averaged, I think, 19 points for the week, 8 or 9 rebounds, and certainly deserving of that honor.
He really, just tremendous play. He's really been hot even since UVA-Wise game, and we nominated him for the UVA-Wise week for Player of the Week too, so he's had 2 weeks back-to-back that he's played tremendous. I can't remember the last time he missed an open 15-footer. I mean, he just is automatic.
Is there a better mid-range jump shooter in the conference?
And there's no question he's the best. I mean, he really is, and that's not really a shot that a lot of people really work on. And to be frank with you, it's really against a little bit of my philosophy in some ways. I'm more of a let's either shoot a 3-point shot or let's shoot a layup. The mid-range game is it's kind of a lost art in some ways, but he's good at it. I mean, he can make it, and he can make it with people on him. He can make it when he's open, and we've actually incorporated a few different offensive sets to get him in that mid-range shot, and he has delivered just about every time.
Yeah, you don't want to play a game of horse with Andrew Young. If you do, pull him within 15 feet or back him away further than 18.
You better mix your shots up. If you let him get in a rhythm, you're in trouble.
Andrew Young, the Mid-South Conference Player of the Week, heading to Georgetown. And, Coach, you'll head to Georgetown, now ranked 12th in the country. You moved to number 20. Let's talk about the rankings a little bit, because you're the Raider for the Mid-South Conference, and there is a Raider in each of the conferences across the nation. Shorter Georgia's still at number 1, but Lindsey Wilson, they lose 2 games last week, and they remain at number 8. maybe our viewers, our listeners would like to hear, how does that happen?
Well, we talked a little bit on the sports guys, and it probably is. It's different than what you see in the NCAA's Final Four and their ratings. It's totally a different system. Each region has their own conference rating. I'm Mid-South Conference. There's one for Trans-South. There's one for the Sooner. Every league has their own rating. The rater puts those in order of sequence of how we feel our conference stacks up 1 through 9. In our case, West Virginia Tech's not eligible for postseason play. Sure. So I have to put them in, then I have to give justifications of why each one of those are there. I don't have to follow conference standings, so to speak, who's 1, 2, 3, 4, because there's more played than just conference games. Now, in years past, some of our raters have put it strictly in format of what the conference rating is or ranking is, and I don't do that. I look at the whole season, because if we're going to play 30 games, it's a national ranking. Right. We want to incorporate our entire season. It's a body of work. It's not a conference schedule. Because someone could just bring in guys at the break and just who aren't high character kids or whatever, and high grade kids that don't do what they're supposed to and win a lot of conference games. Right. But you've got to incorporate an entire season in there, I believe, and we're going to do that. And that's kind of where the rankings have came from. Lindsey Wilson and Georgetown are clearly right now 1 and 2. I gave Lindsey the nod on the 1 spot just because Lindsey lost the game without their point guard on the road. They lost 2 games. Obviously, one of them was us, and Georgetown went full strength and lost 2 games. And Lindsey beat them head-to-head on an 80-footer. So I bumped them to number 1. I put us at number 3 and St. Catherine's at number 4. Even though St. Catherine's had beat us head-to-head, St. Catherine's overall record is 10-8, and they have no non-conference wins that are significant. Actually got beat by IU Southeast twice. Sure. And we beat by 29 points on our home floor. So we put ourselves third, and I slept good that night knowing that I did what was right for our conference. And I used my tiebreaker for Campbellsville and Cumberland's, who both – Campbellsville's got the best non-conference wins of anybody in our league. Now, they've struggled within the league, and but they're playing better. They beat Georgetown at home the other night. So I don't want them to be out of the picture because they've had a great season, just had a struggle in the conference. And Cumberland's, has dropped 4 of their last 11 and hasn't played as strong lately, but a very good ball team. So we've got 6 teams in our league that I feel like go to the national tournament and compete with anybody. You drop them in any league, they'll definitely, without question, be in the top 6 of any league.
Here we sit the last day of January and thinking ahead to the national tournament. As the ratings and teams stand right now, how many teams are possibles to reach the national tournament from the Mid-South? Realistically, how many teams get in?
I think we're guaranteed 1 team.
Sure.
That's what on paper it says. We'll guarantee another at-large bid. I feel very comfortable in saying we'll get a 3rd team in, pretty much guaranteed, unless something more crazy were to happen. And it's my mission as the Raider is to get us 4 teams into the conference tournament. I can't remember ever there being a time that we got 4 teams. I know not in my tenure that there's been 4 teams that have gotten to the national tournament from the Mid-South Conference, which really is a tragedy. I mean, it's really sad because any of our teams will go down, as we proved last year, and compete with anybody in the country on any night. But this week we had 5 teams rated in the top 30 or above, so that's receiving votes, and I thought that was a great accomplishment for our league as well. So hopefully we can get to where we get 4, but I feel very comfortable saying we'll get 3 and cross our fingers for a 4th, but it's going to take some salesmanship. But I'm a decent salesman.
I've seen that, and I think you are too. When we come back, I want to talk about the newly implemented zone defense that your team's playing, what brought on the change, and we want to get a scout on Georgetown. Sure. The Kelly Wells Show, presented by Appalachian Wireless. Join us every Tuesday evening at 6. We're right here. Come have dinner with the coach. Say, hey, he is the National Coach of the Year on the NAI level. We'll be right back after this. Welcome back in the Coach Kelly Wells Show, where we talk University of Pikeville basketball, and the UPike men now 14-7 on the year and ranked number 20 in the nation, coming off 2 big wins last week over Cumberland's and Lindsey Wilson, and this week heading on the road for the first of what is 4 straight on the road. Georgetown coming up Thursday. Saturday it's Shawnee State University. Then next week Campbellsville and St. Catherine. It's a tough stretch for this team, but coaches, we talked even last week coming off Wise. We knew we had a tough stretch. it's the Mid-South Conference after all. They're all tough at this time of year, but you've got Georgetown coming up. Before we talk about that, Scott, I want to talk about the zone, because knowing you and seeing your teams play, you're not a zone guy. But this team has implemented a 1-3-1 zone. It's been very effective, and I think it's forced other teams to change the way they do things. What made Kelly Wells decide to go to this zone?
Well, some sleepless nights, I guess, is the first thing that made me go to it. When Chris McHenry got hurt, it really took our rotation down quite a bit. We really were at one guard, and Josh Whitaker was our only point guard we had in our program, and we knew that if we got into a foul situation, we would really be in trouble, because then we don't have a backup guard. So we had to implement something, one, that would keep us out of foul trouble.
Right.
But at the same time, I wanted something that kept us competitive and active and moving. And I'd always watched John Beilein's defenses when he was at West Virginia and out in Michigan, and we just happened to have one of his assistants now on our team, Jeff Neubauer's assistant, and Nick Bowman. And I just got to talking to Nick about the 1-3-1, and it really fit our personality. And we decided to start working on it a little bit and tinkered with it some in practice. I actually went to Florida, and while we were going to Florida, we implemented it, put it in, and the rest has kind of been history. We've just kind of fine-tuned it and tweaked it a little bit, and I've really enjoyed coaching the zone, as hard as that is and strange that is to say.
It is.
I've enjoyed it. I think it's got so many man principles to it, so many things that we teach in our man-to-man, but we're not a man-to-man personality team, and that's hard for me to let come out of my lips. But we're just not very good man-to-man, and we had to make some adjustments. And you can't do the same thing over and over and expect something different to happen. And so we got out of our man-to-man, and now we went pretty much exclusively to our different zones.
Does it become a part of the Kelly Wells playbook now from here on in your coaching history?
I don't know. Coaches have to adjust. I mean, that's part of it.
Sure.
And if we get in a situation where we have to adjust, it's so good, because teams don't work against that stuff.
Right.
We spend, the first month of the season working against nothing but man-to-man, and most teams do that. So it's really something that perplexes teams the first time they see it, and I've enjoyed it. I think it's something that we'll incorporate. I don't know if we'll ever be as exclusive as we are right now, but it is certainly another bullet in our gun, so to speak, if we need to pull it out. So I will say we'll probably keep it around, but as far as our identity, I'm not so sure.
I think it's been fun to watch, and it certainly has been effective. Coach Kelly Wells coming up, Georgetown and Shawnee, a couple of teams that we owe one to. Georgetown, everyone always loves to beat Georgetown. They'll pencil that game on the schedule. The home game came very early this year, and the games with a lot of spacing between, a couple of months apart. We've nearly forgotten what Georgetown was. Let's get a fresh scouting report on Georgetown. I'm sure there are changes.
Well, not only are they, completely forgotten about, they're completely different. I mean, they've brought in some new players, and they have a couple of injuries on their team. But talent-wise, they're as talented as they come. They brought in a kid from Florida State, Jordan DeMercy, that is as good a wing as there is in the country. He started at Florida State, so he's not going to be too shabby. And they brought a 7'2" post player in who is just a humongous man. And they're a little bit different. Russ Middleton has been hurt lately, broke his wrist. He hasn't been playing. He had a really good game up here at our place against us. And their chemistry has probably been a little bit shaken with some new guys. And there's only one of those round Valentines that you can throw around, and I think they're struggling a little bit with the fact that there's just one of those. There's 7 guys on our team averaging double figures, and a lot of senior laden team, and so it's been a little bit of a challenge, I'm sure, for Coach Briggs to try to manage that. But they're playing well. I mean, they're a top 10 team without question. They're very gifted. Everything goes through Maurice Pearson, who's their veteran post player, who's as good a post player in the country. He could go mid-major and fit right in, looks the part, plays the part, whole 9 yards. And then their wings, DeMercy and Shelley, are as good as I've ever seen, athletically and gifted and talented. So it's going to be a huge challenge for us. But they shot 70% from the three when we played them the first time, 60% from the field, and they snuck out with a 2-point win. I think we've improved since then. I'm sure they feel like they've improved as well. But it's important for us to get off to a good start, and I think if we do that, I like our chances.
And they're coming off a couple of losses. Your team, a couple of wins, 3 to be exact, and your team with a little momentum. I believe I'd rather be on your side of that momentum swing.
Well, let me just tell you, frankly, we'd rather be on our side of the ball every time. It doesn't matter what our record is. We like what we've established here at Pikeville. We like where we stand, and we don't want to be anything but what we are. But we certainly like our position for sure this year.
Coach Kelly Wells, we're looking forward to wins over Georgetown, then Shawnee on Saturday, Campbellsville and St. Catherine. You just took a deep breath. It's a tough
just
week.
Even hearing it come out of your mouth, and that's why we've kind of told our guys it's 4 road games, but we play them one at a time.
Yeah.
Each facility we go to, whether it's nice or it's not nice, has a 10-foot goal on each end. There's 94 feet on that floor, and I expect our guys to play just as well on the road as we play at home. And we've really done that in a lot of games. We played as well as we played all year at Cumberland's and got a 16-point win on the road. So we know what it's like to play good on the road, and it shouldn't be any different no matter where we go. Just got to tune out some of the other things, the crowd, the fans, and those kind of things, and play basketball the Pikeville way, and I think we'll be fine.
And we're inviting fans to make their way to Georgetown
Absolutely.
Thursday. It's an easy trip. Yeah, you've got to work Friday. Take the day off. Call in sick. That's all right. Or just go in late Friday morning.
Be like us, drive home late and get to class at 8 o'clock in the morning
Sure.
like everybody else should.
I'll drive home late and be at work. I'll be right there at 6 o'clock Friday morning. So we can get it done. Need to be there. It's a great atmosphere for college basketball, and the Bears need your support. Georgetown Thursday, Shawnee. It's an easy drive on Saturday to Portsmouth, Ohio for that as well. So we need big crowds both places.
We really do, and we've got both those marked on our schedule, and 2 games we really want to play well at, and neither will be easy, but we've got some serious motivation in our camp to do well, and I think our guys are excited about that opportunity. It's that time of year now where you're just playing, and practices aren't as thorough as they have been. More scouting, more tape watching, more scouting reports, but nonetheless, this is the players' favorite time of year and the coach's most stressful, but it is a good time.
The Bears now 14-7 and ranked 20th in the country. Coming up Thursday, Georgetown, then Shawnee. Of course, we'll have coverage on Z-Rock 107.5 Thursday evening beginning at 7:40, Saturday at 3:40. All the coverage all season long on Z-Rock. Coach Kelly Wells, and for Taryn Duncan and Sydney Wainscott representing the U-Pike women tonight, I'm Andrew Joyce. Good evening, everyone. It's the Kelly Wells Show presented by Appalachian Wireless.